we need to talk about a really hidden form of manipulation. You know, it's a strategy that doesn't go after your weaknesses. No, it's much more clever than that. It actually weaponizes your greatest strengths. This is all about how your empathy, that fundamental, beautiful compassion you have for other people, can be systematically turned against you. And look, understanding this is the first and honestly the most crucial step to defending yourself from one of the most twisted tactics in psychology. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a deeply disturbing paradox, right? The very thing you think is your shield, your kindness, isn't a shield at all. For a certain type of person, it's a giant, flashing bullseye. And there's a name for this whole messed up process: empathy extraction. It's the quiet, calculated art of turning your compassion into their control. So yeah, we call this the kindness paradox. And it's a paradox because it takes something universally good and flips it completely on its head. In this kind of toxic dynamic, your best moral asset becomes your biggest vulnerability. I mean, it creates this really chilling equation. The more you care, the more you give, the more they can take. Your goodness literally becomes the fuel for their game. So I want you to ask yourself this personally. Think about how much you pride yourself on being a caring person, a good friend, a supportive partner. You know, that core part of your identity that says, I am a good person. Now, just for a second, entertain the chilling thought that that exact quality is what a manipulator is actively hunting for. Not because they admire it, but because it's a tool. It's a lever they can pull. And please hear me on this. This is not a flaw in you, it's a feature they're looking to exploit. Okay, so there's a name for this invisible weapon. And just being able to name it, to see it for what it is, that's the first step to disarming it. We're talking about empathy extraction. This is that moment where your compassion stops being a gift you choose to give and starts being a resource that is taken from you. Now, the most important word in this definition is strategic. Empathy extraction is not an accident. It's not someone having a bad day and lashing out. No, it's a deliberate, repeatable tactic. The manipulator is aiming right for your two most powerful emotional buttons, your compassion and maybe even more powerfully, your guilt. And the goal? It's simple. It's to get you to do what they want and to feed them what's known as emotional supply. Think of it like a constant drip of attention, validation, and power they absolutely need to feel okay about themselves. It's a cornerstone of narcissistic abuse. So, what's their motivation? It boils down to one phrase: low-effort supply. They want the biggest emotional reward for the absolute least amount of work. It's like wanting a 5-star meal but only paying for a stick of gum. They also want impunity, which is just a fancy way of saying they want to get away with it, with zero consequences. So how do they pull this off? Well, they exploit your deep-seated need to be a good, consistent person. Their main tools? Oh, they're classics. The martyr complex, where they are always the biggest victim in the room, and relentless, soul-crushing guilt-tripping. All right, so we've got the what and the why. Now let's break down the how, because this isn't random. It's a systematic, repeatable playbook that gets run over and over again. We're about to walk through their 3-stage attack. This is the mechanism they use to turn your greatest strength into their favorite weapon. This right here, this is the entire blueprint. It all starts with stage 1, sourcing. That's the pity play. Then it moves right into stage 2, exploitation. This is the exact moment your kindness gets weaponized. And it wraps up with stage 3, moral coercion. That's when they cash in on all that guilt they just created. If you can learn to spot these 3 steps, you can see the trap before it snaps shut. Let's dig into stage 1, sourcing. The absolute key here is that the distress is either totally manufactured or wildly exaggerated. Okay? This is not a friend having a legitimately bad day. This is a performance of pain. It's a crisis that's been carefully crafted to do one thing: hijack your empathy and switch on what psychologists call the caretaking instinct. They create a problem where you, and only you, seem to have the solution. This, my friends, is the bait. And now for the pivot, the most crucial step: exploitation. This is the moment the trap springs. See, the manipulator doesn't just want your sympathy. They want to turn it into a transaction. They immediately connect the compassion they just triggered in you to a demand that serves them. It almost always has that classic setup. If you really cared, you would. Or if you were a real friend, you'd. All of a sudden, your kindness isn't a feeling anymore. It's a debt, and they've shown up to collect. And that brings us to stage 3, moral coercion. This is checkmate. You're now stuck in this impossible choice. Either you give in to what they want, or you risk being seen and seeing yourself as a bad, selfish, uncaring person. For most empathetic people, that feeling of manufactured guilt is just intolerable. It's a vice grip. So what do? You comply. You pay the emotional price tag they've slapped on their problem. And in that moment, you hand them their ultimate prize, narcissistic supply. That's the rush of power and control they get, which of course leaves you feeling completely and utterly drained. So we've gone through the what and the how. But to really truly diffuse this weapon, we have to get the why. What is going on under the hood psychologically for both people that makes this dynamic so potent? Let's take a look. This right here explains the whole engine. It's a clash of motivations that fit together like two perfect but toxic puzzle pieces. The manipulator, over here on the left, is driven by a desperate need for effortless regulation. Basically, they can't handle their own negative emotions, their shame, their envy, their emptiness, so they outsource the job. They literally dump their pain onto you. Meanwhile, you, the target, are driven by moral consistency. That's a deep need to see yourself as a good, helpful person. So you do the exact opposite. You internalize their pain to solve your own inner conflict. It's a perfect, tragic fit. And this is exactly why it works. Your brain gets hit with this thing called cognitive dissonance. It's like an alarm bell going off, a really uncomfortable mental itch. You have two competing thoughts. One, I am a kind person. And two, I am watching someone suffer and I'm not helping. Your brain hates that tension. And the manipulator is betting that the fastest way for you to scratch that itch, to make that awful feeling go away, is to just give in and do the emotional work they're demanding. Okay, we have analyzed this trap from every angle. Enough about the problem. Now let's talk about how to get out of it. This whole next section is about empowerment. It's about moving from just understanding the game to actively taking it apart, piece by piece. It's time to build your defensive toolkit. So this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Once you can see the playbook, once you recognize the pattern starting to unfold, what do you actually do? How do you stop it? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple, even if it's not easy. You have to stop playing the role they've cast you in. You have to quit the job of being their one and only rescuer. Defending yourself really boils down to 3 practical, actionable steps you can start taking today. First, you're going to conduct what we call the Reciprocity Audit. Second, you'll learn to assert a solution, not sympathy boundary. And third, and this is the tough one, you have to learn how to refuse the guilt trip. Let's break each of those down. First up, the Reciprocity Audit. Think of this as checking the emotional bank account of the relationship. It's a private, totally honest accounting you do just for yourself. Look at the relationship objectively and ask, when I have a real problem, do they ever give me back the same energy I spend on their constant manufactured crises? If the flow of care is always a one-way street, if it looks anything like this 90-10 split, you're not in a friendship, you're in a supply chain. The next tool is a game changer. It's a boundary called solution, not sympathy. So the next time the manipulator shows up with their latest manufactured crisis, the emotional dump, you calmly refuse to take ownership of it. Instead, you use a little conversational judo. You hand the responsibility right back to them with one simple, calm question. Wow, that sounds really hard. What specific steps are you going to take to solve it? That one question changes everything. It shifts the focus from your sympathy to their action, which is the last place they want it to be. And that leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, refusing the guilt trip. And you can do this without a big fight. It's just about stating a new truth. You say, calmly and firmly, my friendship is unconditional, but my time and my resources are not. This is so powerful because it separates your affection from your compliance. You're not saying, I don't care about you. You're saying, my care is not a blank check for you to cash whenever you want. So let's bring this all home. The goal here is absolutely not to become less kind or jaded or cynical, not at all. The goal is to reclaim your compassion. It's about learning to use your greatest strength wisely, on your own terms and according to your own rules. It's about being compassionate, but with really smart boundaries. Look, if you only take one single thing away from all of this, please let it be this. Your kindness is not a weakness, but it is a finite resource. It's like a battery, and you have to start treating it that way. Because to a manipulator, your empathy isn't some virtue to be cherished. It is the currency they are trying to extract from you. It's time to stop giving it away for free to people who only want to spend it on themselves. So, what's the path forward look like? Well, it all starts with recognizing empathy extraction for what it is, the hidden weapon that lets people use your kindness against you. You can see their pattern now, right? Sourcing kicks in your caretaking instinct, which leads right into moral coercion, where an emotional price tag gets slapped onto your compassion. But your awareness of this, that's what breaks the whole cycle. Using the reciprocity audit shows you the shocking imbalance, and prioritizing self-compassion, that's what finally gives you permission to protect your most valuable asset, you. And this is the final, most empowering truth of all. Their entire system, their whole strategy, it just collapses the moment you make one simple choice. You break the weapon, you defuse the trap, you take back your power by simply refusing to pay the emotional price tag for their manufactured pain. Never forget, their control depends 100% on your compliance, and that is a power you can always take back.